Hello again. So I'm about to make a new red truck and tree, but first I'm going to remind you I made this one last year, and I'm doing a variation on this one. This one, as you remember, has 3 sets of wheels, but I saw it more as a cab with a trailer on the back, and that's why it had 3 sets of wheels. And it had this little hamper that I got from Hobby Lobby, and there's a shelf inside there that the hamper rested on, and there's a tree with lights, and there's the tree and the lights pushed under the shelf that the hamper rested on, and there were a couple of little wrapped boxes that look like Christmas presents in the back. And it was made from chipboard, and I did have the maker, but I didn't have the knife blade. I cut it out, well, the cab parts at least, I cut out with the deep cut blade on my maker. Since then I've had a bit of trouble when I tried to cut chipboard with the deep cut blade, and I was very pleased when the maker knife blade came out a few months ago, and I've been cutting out all sorts of things since. So I decided I'd make an update on my red truck and tree. I'm trying to get it into the best place so you can see it. And it's going to have a shorter bed at the back, slightly longer cab at the front. It's only going to have 4 wheels this time. It's going to have a bigger tree. It's not going to have lights. It's not going to have the hamper and the shelf. And it's just a little bit more refined in various places, and this time I have the opportunity, which I didn't have time for last year, to show you how I make it step by step. So I'll put this aside and I'll gather up some of the pieces ready to start making this. But before I do, I'm going to pause you and take you a quick look on the screen in Design Space to see what the file looks like. So we're looking at the new truck and tree on the screen here. These are all the chipboard pieces. This is what I used Cricut heavy chipboard for. These lighter pieces are Cricut craft board, layered twice. So there's one of those layers, and there's one of the others, and there's 2 layers of these as well. And this light coloured pieces, that's the acetate. And as I told you, I used acetate from some packaging, but you can use whatever acetate you have. These grey pieces are silver cardstock. They're for the bumpers and for the pieces that go around the windows. The red is red cardstock that I used. I use a basil cardstock. The black pieces are again Cricut craft board. You could use the same colour as this if you wanted to. I just used black when I did it the first time round. All these pieces here are the construction strips. There may not be the right number because there's lots of seams to join up, but if I put hundreds of them on here, and I don't mean you need literally hundreds, but you need plenty of them, it would just fill the whole screen up. So I just put this many on, and you can cut some more if you want to. This is the tree, which I cut from green cardstock. I cut it in 2 different shades. They're really not very much different, and you could just use the same colour if you wanted to. I just wanted to give a little variation to my tree. And there are 8 of those, and they are scored down the middle and folded together, which you'll see when I show you. This is the seat part that you fold up to make the seat inside if you want to. You don't have to have one of those if you don't want to. And this is the piece of Cricut faux leather that I used. Again, you don't need to do that. And these are even more optional. These are pieces you could put on the bottom of the truck if you wanted to. And this is a steering wheel, which I didn't put in myself, but if you wanted to make a steering wheel you could probably use that. And I think I've shown you everything. There's the wreaths and the swags that go on the side, and they're in several layers. And in mine, as I say, I use the piece that cut out of the window to put my sign on, and I put it on the back, but you'll see that later too. And these are the pieces that are meant to look like slatted wood. And when you see my final truck, you'll see mine didn't actually use this colour that we've got here, but we'll talk about that later. And finally, when you click Make It, you do need to move things around on the mat sometimes, and I'll show you for an example. You see here that the tree, they put it on several different mats, and you don't need to do that. Actually, I probably would, and I was cutting that out, I probably would either use this on a different colour or move it for now. But this one will fit on the other mat with it, and I'll show you. You just move to another mat if you've never done this, and you choose your mat. Here will do. It's the same colour, same shade as the other one, and it'll come on top. But in order to make it fit, all you need to do is turn it upside down, and then two will fit onto a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock, and you need to go down and do that with the others. In fact, you don't really need to do it with 37 and 38. You can just repeat 35 twice and ignore 37 and 38 if you want, and do the same down here. And you'll also probably find that some of these pieces will fit on a mat with each other if you move them around. The chipboard looks like it's fairly well spread, but you would have to check that out for yourself. And that's about it. That's all I have to tell you, I think, about this before we go back to the model of it. I didn't tell you about you can see that under there's the radiator grill, and where you put the lights, the headlights, and the rear lights are around somewhere. Those are, I think those are the one for the rear lights, but I will check that for you. And just, oh no, there's the rear lights up there. They're just silver pieces, and as you know, I put some flat-backed jewels or on top of them. So that's all I'm going to tell you about that, and we'll go back to making the model. Okay, so I'm back again, and I'm going to start by putting the back bed of the truck together. It still has the wood grain style of slatted wood on the sides, which I know isn't very much what you'd find on a pickup truck, but it makes it look kind of vintage, and I like it. I'm not putting that on the inside like I did in my last truck. I'm going to put a nice simple but attractively Christmassy red tartan that I got from Hobby Lobby. It was a sort of, I think it was an 8.5 by 11 paper pad that was all plaid. I think it was called Plaid Tidings, yes it was. And that's what I'm going to use in the base of the truck and in the back. So I'll put those pieces aside because we're not going to be using them yet, and some of the decorations. And I'll start with the chipboard pieces that make up the back part. And you just reach these ones over here. There we are. And you'll find there are two pieces like this, but one is slightly longer than the other. The shorter one is, I don't think you can see that, but anyway I can tell you, the one is slightly shorter than the other. And that's the one that is the base of the cab, so we'll put that aside for the moment, and we're just going to do the one for the back. So there's 4 pieces for the back, plus the back windscreen, windshield as you say in America, windscreen as we say in the UK, and I know I have some UK subscribers too, so I'm not going to say everything just for USA. And so those 4 pieces make this part of the truck, and we put them together in the usual way with construction strips, which are craft cardstock in this case, and they're scored down the middle, and we've cut those out on the maker first, and I usually put them on the inside and the outside, and that makes a nice firm construction. So this time I'm using the art glitter glue to put together, if I can get it to work. It was working a minute ago. Oh, maybe if I took the top off it would help. And I'm going to glue the first strip on here. And put it just here, like this. Make sure it's right up to the edge and nice and firmly stuck. And then I'm going to stick the side on to that strip. I could use, when it's something where there's not a lot of detail, I sometimes use this instead, the basic Aleene's glue that you find in Walmart, whatever white glue you might have in the UK. But for the moment I'm going to carry on with the art glitter glue. And you need to make sure, as you stick those together, that they line up nice and flush at the ends, and there's the first piece. And then there's the back piece. It's going to join on here. So, I don't think I've cut all my strips yet. I'm being a bit lazy, I'll cut some more later. So I may have to cut one down to size to fit the back piece. But it isn't even one. I'll use this one. And I don't see my scissors, of course. I'm always missing something when I come and show you anything. So let's put this one here first because it's the right size for the other side. And then I will locate my scissors and cut down one of those strips to fit. And I'm picking up the wrong glue. So same procedure. Line it up to the side, press it down firmly and stick the other side on. I find this a very simple way to construct these models. It holds everything in place very firmly, and so why change a method when it works so well is what I say. So that's that one. So we have those two in place. This one isn't quite lined up. I'm moving it down while the glue is still allowing me to move it, which is why I wouldn't use hot glue, by the way, because that's less forgiving. And then each of those actually is going to have a piece on the outside as well. I'll stick those in a moment. I really need a pair of scissors, so excuse me then, I'll just grab some. And these will do, they're the closest. You should have construction strips that are already the right size, but I don't tend to make, in the design I very often don't make every single construction strip. I leave for you to double them up or trim them according to size. It's just really to make it simpler than you just cutting pieces and scoring them all by hand, and when the machine will do it for you. I didn't bother, I have used the score wheel for various things, but I don't bother with it for the construction strips because they fold into place quite easily without the score wheel, and I don't want to change from one tool to another when I just don't need to. Because you have to take the blade out, put the score wheel in and so on and put it back. So that's, I don't bother for the construction strips. And then this piece going here. Make sure they're glued right up to the edges. I usually stick it, press it into place in the position I want it to be, because if you lie it flat and then try and fold it back up again, you might pull off your strips and bend them in the wrong places. So there we are, that's the start of the back. And then we also need construction strips on these seams here, this one and this one. And again, because I've been lazy and not cut them all out in advance, I'm going to cut one down. And I'm going to put that one on the inside. I actually cut these out of an £80 craft cardstock that I got from Michael's, but you can use various things really. You could use a £65 and that probably would work just as well. But this gives a nice firm finish. And then this piece here on the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. Is this the right height? Almost. Just trim that one down. And if you do use that textured £80 craft cardstock, I'd put the smooth part on the glue side. And as I say, it's really not important. You can use various cardstocks to do this. I just grabbed what's to hand, and I think it was because it was 12 by 12, I thought I would use that. So there we are. The first part. And try and get the seams to all fit as closely as you can. That's another reason why you put another piece of construction strip on the outside, because that pulls all the seams together and makes them look neat and tidy. So that's another thing I need to do. You could just put them on the inside and that would work, but I always put them on both sides of the seam, and it really does make a difference on the finish of it. So that's what I'm going to do now. At least I'm going to do one or two to show you, because I'm not going to stick the whole thing while you watch. I'm going to pause in places and finish off parts and come back to you, but you will see the whole process as I do it. And there we are, you can see that gives a very nice smooth seam on both the inside and the outside, and a very firm construction, especially when all the sides are on and all the pieces are together. So the last piece will be this one. This is the back of the cab and also the front of the bed of the truck. So that piece will go there. Let's stick that one in just so you've got some idea. And I'm going to have to cut down again. I'm probably going to have to leave you anyway to cut some strips that actually fit so that I can carry on with this construction. But I wanted to give you as much detail as possible this time without boring you completely to death. And that one is going in here, just a little bit long. That's better, and that fits in there. And then of course you need two more strips, one down here, and you need strips on all of these over the top to finish them off. So I will put a couple more into place and I will come and show you, and in the meantime I'll go and cut a few more out ready to construct the rest. But that's basically how the bed of the truck and the back windshield, I don't know if you call them a windshield, window anyway at the back, goes. So I will leave you for a moment and I will come back. So here I am back with a few more construction strips, and I've stuck a few of them on the outside and the inside, and there's just a couple more to go here, and then this part is finished. So there's one to go on the outside of that seam here. I'll do that one first. And put that carefully into place. And then there's one more here. Make sure that that's firmly stuck down. There's one more to go across here, and then you can see every seam has inside and outside one of those. So let's put the last one on that part, and then we look at the cab part. You've always got to remember when you're putting these things together about the order of things, because sometimes, for example, if you put all the cab together and then you wanted to put something inside the cab and you've already stuck it down, you've got to think of that first. So I know, because I've done that a few times myself. Just making sure this is nice and flat. That needs a little trim. And that's very sturdy and firm. So now we've got the base of the cab, and we've got the windscreen, Now the windscreen has got the acetate already sandwiched. This is craft board, and I've sandwiched two pieces together. I didn't use chipboard because I scored these parts and bent them around gently to make the shape of the cab, and that wouldn't be so easy to do with chipboard, I don't think. So I used craft board, two pieces together like these, and glued them together. And I sandwiched I'm looking for the cab pieces now. I sandwiched the glass between the two. On these ones, I think I'm going to put them behind on the inside, because we've got this to go on the outside. The other thing you could do is sandwich that under. They fit exactly, so you could sandwich those on the outside if you want to, and I haven't quite decided yet. I might do that, but first of all we've got to put the cab together with the strips. Also, on this last one I forgot to mention, but it has a seat inside it. I don't know if you can see that very well through the window part here. You might just be able to. And that was a piece of bent over, I think it was chipboard, or it could have been craft board, and it was covered with Cricut faux leather. And I might try and make one of those to go in this one, but I haven't done that yet. I also plan maybe to put a steering wheel in, but I don't think either of those are actually necessary. That's a sort of optional extra, and when I get to that part I'll decide what I'm going to do. But to start with, we're going to put these together. So I'm just trying to think what order to do it in. I think I'm going to leave the base off for now, because that may be where I want to put the seat inside through. So there's this part, and that fits. You have to bend these into the right sort of shape gently, and that should fit round here. It should fit exactly onto that part. And then this part, which I haven't stuck together yet, actually glues onto there and fits around the front. You've got to make sure you've got this the right way up though, so you need to check before you stick it into place that that's the one that goes. And I think it's the one with the longer piece here and the shorter piece goes down the front. In fact, I'm sure it is. So I'm going to glue those together now, and that's just, I've just made two of those because it makes it firmer and stronger. Make sure you go up close to the edges, but not so much as usual that it all oozes out all over the place. And I'm going to put those two together, so that goes that way. And while you're doing it, you should make sure you get the sort of bent shape you want while they're drying, otherwise it might pull it flat. I've got a little too much glue on my fingers there, but in any case this is going to be covered with red cardstock. I did consider painting it red. I haven't painted the chipboard yet. I'm not sure what the best way to go about that is, whether I might use an acrylic craft paint or a spray paint, and I'll try that out on a future project. But for this one, it's going to be covered in red cardstock, and I'll show you what I did to colour the edges of the wheel arches. So now I'm going to glue these two pieces together here. I'm going to hold that firmly in place until I think they're nice and firmly glued, and that's a good reason to use this particular glue for this part, because it's strong and quick hold. So that's those two pieces glued at the join there, and the windshield is already in place, sandwiched between the two. And that feels like it's pretty much done. So now you've got some strips that have this notches cut in them, and you may find you may need to extend these notches a little bit more, but if I had done it too much more, they would have been falling apart when you were taking them off the mat, so I didn't do that. So the idea is that they're going to bend round and join these pieces together, and I think it goes that way. Make sure I've got the right ones. Yes, those are the middle parts. It looks like I might need just one more little notch, so I'm going to cut one. And as I say, you may need to just take the tip a little bit further up, but don't cut them in half, obviously, or they're not going to work properly. And then you're going to glue those around to put the pieces together. So I'm going to stick this part first. And I'm going to on the outside first in this one. Up to the edge. And these pieces are going to go round like that. So I'm going to glue rather these little teeth or notches or whatever you want to call them on this piece, and stick that around there like that, and that should just meet up quite nicely. Like that. And then this piece is going to stick onto there, but first of all I'm going to put the other notched piece, and that one piece didn't stick down properly, put a little bit more glue. You really need to hold them in place until they're firmly stuck. So now I'm going to get one of these, ones with the notches in the middle, more in the middle, and I think it's this way around, and that's going to go around there like that. And I'm just going to trim them slightly, but really very little, just a tiny snip, just to ease them around that corner a little more easily. Tiniest little snips. Maybe no more than a 1/16 of an inch, just very small. There we are. And I'm going to stick that one on here, and it's that way up. So I keep picking up the wrong glue. one is going on here and then around that corner like that. And that's nice and firmly glued. And we can put this on. And this is going to go on there, and you're going to have to bend this into place and get it to stick in the right places. Actually, this is the outside ones, and I'm putting it on top, so it's got to go underneath. So again, making sure they're still firmly stuck. I'm going to start with this one, this end first. And move those out of the way so you can see better. And I'm going to put glue on these parts first. And just checking which way I'm going, this way. And I'm going to push these into place. Could do it from the inside first if you want to. I think I have done on previous occasions, but either way works. And I'm going to turn it up this way so I can see what I'm doing and get them into exactly the right position. I'm going to stick this one first to line up with that end, and this one to line up with that part, and then I'll press down these little ones, and I'll add any more glue if I need to because they're already drying. And push those into shape too. You want a nice smooth edge. And when they're all stuck into place, it should look like that. Where are we? Like that. No, you can see, oh, that's better. I'm holding it to the camera at the wrong angle. Like that. And now I'm going to do this part. Same way. I'm going to stick this one on first. And get that lined up nice and straight and smooth to the edge. And then I'm going to put the other one on the other end here, this one in the right place first, this one on the end here, and then I'll stick those little tabs, those little teeth on last when this is all stuck into place. So make sure you line up the two pieces at this corner nice and evenly. Put them in place, and then, as I say, you can stick these pieces down in a moment when that's firmly adhered, and it seems pretty good. So I'm going to now put the glue on these teeth, petals, notches, I don't know what you'd like to call them, and stick those down to make a nice rounded corner that's nice and smooth. And when it's all happily stuck, I'll show it to you. And that looks like that. And all we need to do now is do that on the other side, but I won't make you watch that twice. I will pause you while I go and stick the other piece on. Well, something went wrong with my video recording, I'm afraid. In the bit where I stuck the cab and the bed, truck bed together and inserted the seat, doesn't seem to have recorded. So I will make sure that I've shown you the pieces of the seat on the screen, Design Space screen is what I'm trying to say. And I will try and explain to you how I did it, but basically it's a piece that folds. I don't know how to explain all this. Perhaps I could explain it with this. It's a piece with score marks in it. Perhaps I could. Yeah, perhaps I could. And that was me just answering a phone call, but I'm back again. And now you have this piece, which also has scoring on it. That's the piece that covers the hood. And again, we're going to have to, well, we don't have to, but I like to ink around the edges. Depends what colour you're using and what colour chipboard and whatever else to make yours with. I'm using Cricut heavy chipboard, but I have tried cutting other chipboards with my maker and the knife blade, and so far it hasn't been all that successful. So I tend to use the Cricut because it's very nice quality chipboard and it cuts perfectly. So just glue that into place, and that is the wrong size. So I'm going to have to go and cut another piece that is the right size and come back to you. So I'm back with the right size piece, and it will be the right size piece when you come to it. So don't worry about that. And it's scored along the middle. I did use the scoring tool for both the scoring on the craft board and on this cardstock, and I mean the scoring wheel, the new one that comes with the maker, but I'm sure you could do it with the old scoring tool as well, or even score it by hand if you wanted to. So we're going to fit that on there and make sure it's the way up. The longer piece goes this way and it bends over there. And I've already inked the edges, so we'll put that in place. I think the light's getting a bit low now, so I'll probably not do too much more and come back to it tomorrow and you. But we'll put this in place. First, and the long piece, yes, that's it. It's right up to the edge of the hood and over the front down to the bottom, and that meets there quite well. And there we are. That piece is stuck in place now too. So the last one I'm going to show you is the door panel, which is going to go on here. and it looks like this, and this is going to be stuck on here, on the side here. But as the light's getting lower, I'm going to leave you for today, and I'm going to come back and finish this with you tomorrow. Okay, so we're back again, and I'm trying a different camera angle to see whether you can see things more easily. I think the main problem is that this item is quite big, so to get it all in camera at the same time is quite difficult. But anyway, we'll carry on. And so I have glued the side pieces and one of the door panels, and I have sandwiched the windows. You may have noticed that I forgot to, so I managed to take this one off and sandwich the window in there at the last minute. The one at the back wasn't sandwiched between the cardstock and the chipboard, but when you put on the window frame, the piece that frames the window, for my case, it hid the acetate edges anyway, so you could do it that way if you wanted to anyway. And if you do the same thing as me and forget, you can always do that afterwards. So we have these other pieces to go around the windows and the windshield, and I do suggest you use, with this metallic cardstock, I always find that the glue lines show through if you use white glue, but they don't seem to when I use this Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1, which I still think are the same glue, so you can have either of those. It's a clear gel glue, so if you have another type of clear gel glue or a glue that's meant for photographs or something like that, it probably will do the same job. So I'm sticking the windshield on here, well, the windshield silver frame piece around on the front, trying not to get glue everywhere like I sometimes do. And then I have the doors. I'm going to glue those. I'm still not sure you can see. I will try and place them where you can see them while I'm doing them. This one goes on this door, and there's a curved corner, and that's how you tell the right side and the left side which one goes where. So that's that one, and now I'm going to do the other one, the other side. We had a hurricane last night in the panhandle of Florida, which fortunately didn't affect us. I hope none of you are up there affected by that. And if you are, I hope it all gets sorted out for you as soon as possible. Anyway, there's another window. I think those look quite nice with the silver around them. And then we have another door panel. It's symmetrical, so it doesn't matter which way round you put it. And while I've got this glue out, I'll stick this red cover for the door panel, which is chipboard, just to give it a little bit of dimension. And I probably wanted to, I don't know if I did with the other one, yes I did, so I probably need to ink this round the edges with red first to make it match. Using the Tim Holtz Distress ink again. And the door handles, I want them on the back of this part of the door, in this case to the left of this one, and I have 2 silver pieces and a black piece. It's just to give it just a little bit of depth, and you can do any combination of those, or even just one layer if you want. So put those on. Oh, I will use this again for this. Whoops, that was rather a lot. Let's scrape a little bit off with just a little tiny piece of colour. There we are. Sometimes that clear glue can be a bit gloopy. Put that down there. And then I'm going to stick that to the door. And I'm going to look at the other one to see just where I put it. Only on the opposite side. That's my computer over there being silly. So ignore that sound. And I'm hoping it doesn't keep doing it. Probably will, it's probably notifying me about emails or something. And then I'm going to glue this door in place as well. And this is running out, but I have more of this glue if I should have a problem. Or I can use the Aleene's for a large piece like this, and I think I will, just to save time while you're watching me. I intend to keep that other for either things I want to be very firm indeed, or the intricate pieces. So making sure I'm putting this the right way up, and making sure I'm putting it in about the same places on the other side. I'm just going to put that in place here. And this bit of glue there, which I might remove later. Anyway. And checking that they're about the same. This one, whoops, that wasn't very good, was it? Let's try again. Here we are. Hold it in place a little while it sticks. And the door handle wants to slide around as well. So I'm going to put it downwards for a minute and try and remove that little piece of the clear glue. While we're waiting for it to stick. It's deciding to be a bit messy, this one, but I'm sure I can clean it up afterwards anyway. And then I think the next thing we'll do are the side panels on the back bed. So to start with, there are some plain red pieces to go on, and again try and line them up so that there's not too big a gap anywhere. And I think I need a little bit more red here, because it is a little bit of a gap. Yeah. And I'm going to glue that here, something like that. I'll use this since it's here. All of these glues are fairly interchangeable to a certain extent. They're all good adhesives. And at times I use any of them depending on what's to hand and what I've run out of and what my mood is. So that's the first side. And that's there. And I have another piece like that here. Just going on this side. Same thing. And make sure you go up to the edges, otherwise your edges or corners and things will come away. And that's going here. Just line it up. And I did ink along the top of the bed part too. That's that one. Then this piece for the back, so put that on. These are all solid core cardstock I'm using. If you use one with a white core, you might want to ink those as well. So there's the last piece going on the back. And then over the top of those are going the slatted wood style pieces. And I should have several of those. I can only see one at the moment, so I'll just use this one to show you. I had black craft board underneath, again just to give it a little bit more depth. So I'll just stick those together. And that goes on top of that one. Oh, there's the other one right under my nose. So they're going to go on the sides like that. And I will stick that through that. Again, line it up very carefully, make sure it's even, and there's the first one. And there are some vertical pieces too, like these. I'll just glue this one to this. Again, it's layered on black craft board. And so right, try a different one. I don't know if that's the right length. That looks better. Let's try again. Now the black piece is wrong. Let me just sort myself out here. This one goes on top of here. And that sticks here. over where the slats join here. So here there's a space for that, and I'll just glue that one. Like that. Not even. And this is probably better over here. Yes, that's the right length. I'll stick that one. And of course that one goes the other side, like that. And there's that. And this little piece is coming up. You'll find if you don't stick glue right up to the corners, it will happen to you too. So check all those as you go. And that's that. Now I'm not going to make you watch me stick all the other 3 pieces on, so I will pause you for a moment and stick those and come back to you in a second when they are in place. So those pieces are all in place now on the back and the sides, and let's see what we're going to do next. Well, I think we'll put, as I said, I'm putting plaid pieces, tartan pieces inside the bed of my truck now, so I think I'll start with those. I'm going to put the side pieces on first. There's no particular reason for that. You may find you need to trim them down slightly because the chipboard takes up a bit of space. This one seems to fit really well. So here's the first one. And you can, if you've got, like me, a little bit of white edges on those, put a bit of ink on the edge afterwards. And that one seems really well in place. Just make sure it's firmly stuck. And then I have another side piece for the other side. It's against the camera there. I'll turn it round so you can see that. And stick that one in. And that one fits in there. Glue there, and I'll give that a little rub along the top as well. One fits. And then this one, I'm going to try putting this in place first, because I suspected that one might be a little, need a little trim. And it might be a good idea to do that, to try before you glue them into place. Make sure they fit properly. It could do with a little bit more. And it might even need some off the top, we'll see. And yes, it's a little bit tall there as well, so I'm going to take a tiny bit off the top too. It was all to do with all these construction strips and the thickness of the chipboard that might make your pieces need a little bit of adjustment. I'm hoping that that will slide in there now in the right place, and it does. And once again I'm going to ink along the top. You could do that before you put it in there, that's probably the more sensible way, but it seems to work. And finally there's the piece on the bottom here. And again it's just a tiny bit wide. I'll cut this side. And here we go, I've trimmed that. And that should now hopefully get in there, and it does. Even all around. And I don't know if you can see, there's a tiny gap just there, which isn't inked, so I'm going to use a little red Sharpie and fill in that gap so that it doesn't show. So I'm just drawing inside. Just darkens that down a little bit there, so where the join is. I don't know if you could see that. And there's another thing I have to show you. On mine, I had a gap near the door here, and I fitted a little piece of extra cardstock in there on both sides. I will try and adjust the pattern so that doesn't happen on yours. Again, it's to do with the thickness of the chipboard, and so sometimes the pieces are slightly smaller, so I'll try and increase them a little bit for you, but not to the point where you've got overlaps that you don't need. And I think just touching up that bit, a little bit of white, and you could do the same with the Sharpie on that, but I'll do that later, you don't need to watch that. So we're well on our way. On the, what should we do next? We'll do the bumpers first, because where you put the rest of the stuff depends on where they are. And I've got 3 pieces glued together, the 3 silver pieces, which you could back it up. If you haven't got a lot of silver, you could use black as a backing, and I definitely use this clear glue on this silver cardstock, because glue lines do show through on it if you use white glue, I find anyway. Perhaps it depends on which silver cardstock you've got, but it shows it through quite badly if you use the wrong glue. And so there, I'll leave that one to stick together while I put this one in place. Just push that down. So it's 3 pieces. And I want it to curve around the front, and that's a place where my front didn't quite reach the bottom, but in this case it's not going to matter, because, and I've adjusted it for you, but because we're going to stick this in place here. And so I curved it round my finger, having worked out what size I need it to be, and I'm going to, I think I'd quite like a piece of chipboard behind there, if I can find one. Yeah, to raise it from the front of the orrery. You don't need to actually do that if you don't want to, but I just want to make mine a little bit more. So I've just put a piece of chipboard that's not in the pattern, which you can put a piece if you want to, like that. And now I'm going to glue it to the front, and that just makes it, once it sticks, which I didn't give it long enough. Wait a bit longer. Looks like it's raining outside. The flag's blowing in the breeze. And that's again a little bit of the edges of that willow system. So I'm just going to get my white glue. I've left it somewhere else because I do want to stick this to the front with my white. Okay, so I had to delete the next bit of video because I made a silly mistake, which you'll see in a moment, and I had to change things up, at least on my truck, a little bit, to put it right, and you'll see the result of that in the next part. But don't worry, because it all came right in the end. So I'm back again, another day, and as I mentioned to you in my brief earlier video, the part you've just seen, I made a big mistake and I glued these on to the sides here, right in the middle, and then I thought, how am I going to fit the wheel arches on, or fenders, as I've now been told they're called. So I had to strip off the outer parts of my truck bed and these as well, and replace them all again. And I didn't have any more red, the red that I used for the wood. So I decided to use a sort of wood coloured craft stock, and I rather like it actually, and I put a little bit of distress inks in various shades, the usual Tim Holtz ones, and distress oxides and so on, to give a little bit of colour that reflects a bit of the red, as you can see there. And I'll probably do a little bit of distressing on the actual truck itself at the end and match it all in. So the next thing we probably ought to do is put on the fenders, and the way mine is rocks slightly, so when you do put them on, you want to make sure you hold the truck in position and push these right down to the table like that, in the place you want them to be, and hold them to glue there, and then when you put the wheels on, it won't rock anymore because the wheels will all be at the same height. So we're going to decide where we're going to put these fenders, and if you're in Britain I think we call them wheel arches. Anyway, and we're going to glue those into place first. I have done them in the past with hot glue. I'm not all that convinced hot glue always stays in place, so you could use that if you want. I probably am going to stick mine with this E6000, and I think the nearest equivalent in the UK, by the way, is probably something like Yoo-Hoo. It's a bit stronger than just the white glue, and then I will leave those to stick for a while and come back to you when they're in place. But I'll show you how I'm going to do it first. Perhaps I'll also show you the wreath that I'm going to put on the front, and I think we may as well do that before the fenders actually. And I want mine so that it's just where the curved bit of the hood, or bonnet as we call it in England, is, and so it'll stick out just a little bit above the radiator. And also I've decorated it with a couple of little rhinestones as well, and I'm bending it. And I'm also bending back some of the, well, what would you call that? It's sort of pine or fir or ends, and curling them up slightly so they stick out and look a bit more like a wreath. But only the very tips, because you don't want things breaking away. So I just did them with my fingernail, and in fact, if it looks like it might be a little flimsy, I just put a spot of glue under it, and then when that's stuck down, I just turn up the very end, the very tips. So I push that into place there, and I'm just turning up the very tip with my fingernail. And then I'm going to bend this into place and glue it on the front. And I'm happy with my white glue for that, so I'm going to do that now. And I'm just sticking the top part. And I'm going to turn it round so I do get it in the middle and where I want it to be, and hold that in place while that sticks. And it's not quite centered, right? And I leave that to stick while I look at the Fenders, but you can see that it doesn't quite, it's not flat against the radiator. It's hard to get it at an angle to show you, but it sticks out just a little bit like a real wreath. I think so anyway. And so that's that. And actually perhaps we'll also put the, before we put the Fenders on, because we're going to have to leave it for a while to stick, we'll put these other two pieces on as well. Both the back part, which because I've now got wood colour, I've coloured it slightly around the edges with my, one of my, I think it says Abandoned Coral Distress Oxide, and I think you can see that just to make it stand out a little from the wood at the back. And when I put the lights on, in fact they're ready to go on as well, I'll do those. I'm going to put those on first, but you'll see, let's just do that first. Put those just above the bumper at the back, on each side, close to the edge. Like that. Just above the bumper. Like that. Just a bit of glue. Then this way up, in order to not be resting completely on top of the lights, I'm going to have it slightly above the back of the bed, so it will be about that high above. Let me see if I can show you. There, something like that. And I don't want my, what do you call them, brads to show, and this is where I peeled it off last time, as you can see. So I'm going to stick this piece over to hide my brads before I stick it on, and that's another piece that came out of the window shape from the cardstock, so I'm going to glue that on first, as I say, to cover the brads, because as it's going to be slightly above the level of the truck bed, I don't want any brads to show. So there we are, perfect fit obviously, because it came out of the same part of the... So don't go looking in your file thinking I didn't cut that out, because it's out of this back window here. It's the piece that cut out of, you can't see that. It's actually exactly the same size and shape, as it's the chipboard and the cardstock that came out of there when we were cutting that out, and that's what I'm utilising here. So Just make sure that's firmly adhered. It isn't yet. And I'm going to glue that into place. Not quite to the top because it's going to be above the level of the top of the bed, but only a little bit. And I'm going to turn this round so I can make sure I get it central and above the lights. And that looks about right. And my lights is a bit lower. Here we are. And so that's how that looks. I'm just straightening it up from this side too. And that's how that looks. I'll put that in place. So the next thing is going to be these 4 pieces, fenders or wheel arches, whatever you call them. Well, tell me in England you don't call them that either. I can't claim to be completely knowledgeable on cars. So I'm going to stick the front ones. I'm going to push the front of mine. Yours might be flat, mine isn't quite. I'm going to push the front ones down at the front first and glue those into place. So, you can't see that at the moment, but I'm going to put it a little way back from the bumper and push it right down to the table whilst this is in. And I might put something on here in a minute to keep this in position while that's drying. And because this glue does take longer to dry than white glue. And I'll do the other one and you'll be able to see then the one I've just done. And I'll try and get that in a similar position on this side, pushing this down while I do it. Oops, my glue is spilling out over my, which I do not want, my nice Cricut mat. There's a piece of card and scoop it up, put it on the back of here. This glue smells. And put that in place and push this down as well. And I'm going to find something heavy, a book or something to put on the front there to keep it in place. I don't know if this is heavy. This might be actually. I'll put that on the front there to keep this in place, and I'll try and move it back so you can see where they are. I think my camera angle is still not right now. I moved it back. There we are. And so those are pushed right down to the table, and I've got this weighting it down so that I can put these to the table at the back. And I'm told they shouldn't be too close to the back if you're going to be realistic. So I was told by a man, I'm not a car person really, that notices these things. And I'm just going to stick those in place, and then I'll put you on pause again whilst I wait for them to dry enough to handle and put the wheels on. So there's one. So I'm going to put them about an inch in from the back and push down to the table, up, or rather push the wheel arch down to the table, but not the truck, because the truck, I want the wheels to be level. That's one. And I put the other one, which I've lost. It's hiding. I'm sure you can see it. I can't. I turn this round anyway. Oh, there it is. Ha. Did you notice that I put those plants, those swags in the wrong place, and were you all shouting at me, "You Cherry, that's not going to work"? Or maybe not, because I didn't realise until I came to think about putting these on, and then I thought, oh, they're not going to fit now. So that's one of the back wheel arch fenders on, and I'm just going to put this one on this side and then leave them to dry for a bit and check how far I've got that in, about an inch, and do the same this side. Nice amount of this smelly E6000. And I'm going to look from the back to see exactly where, try and make them level with each other. Right, you can't see the one I'm doing on this side, but I'm trying to get them lined up about an inch in, matching up on each side. And at that point, to put in top back on this stuff, it does lose, doesn't it? Horrible stuff, don't really like it, but it's a good glue whether I like it or not. So, the top back on that, and switch you off for a little while, and I'll come back to you later with the final pieces of the truck. So these are nearly dry, but I'm going to move it out of the way because I've got a couple of other things to show you. Here are the wheels. There's 3 of them, and here's one I haven't put together yet. So I've got chipboard, I've got mat board, and white piece, and the hubs, or whatever you call those pieces in the middle. And so I just left one not made yet, just to show you how I do it. So this is going onto the chipboard. This is the front of the wheel. I wish I'd done it the other way around because I've got a bit of glue on this side, but I expect I can rub that off afterwards. Anyway, oh, it's rubbing off now. Good. So then there's this piece that goes just on the inside of that, and you've got to line it up nice and evenly. And we're going to do that. Try and centre it as well as you can, so that it's sort of meant to look like a fancy white wall tire. And then I've got a couple of these plates or whatever they call those things in the middle of wheels. I've forgotten. I'm sure someone's going to tell me. And that's going to go in the middle. And that top one doesn't seem to be stuck to that one yet. I put them in a couple of layers again just to give it a little bit of dimension. And then, because I've got chipboard, I used my black distress ink. You could use a Sharpie if you wanted to, or some other black ink, and I put it around the edge, all the way around the edge, to make it like a black tyre. Now I know tyres are a lot thicker than this, but you have to use your imagination a bit. I'm not aiming for 100% authentic, just something that looks attractive. And of course the wheels don't have an axle, they don't go round. This is just a decorative piece. It's not meant to be a child's toy, it's meant to be a Christmas decoration. So there we are. That's not quite centred. Stick it like this. It's more like it. Yes. And I'll put those on in a moment because I have other things to show you. The swags, I had to put another piece on the back because when I peeled them off I stripped some of the paper off the back and I accidentally cut it out in silver instead of green. But I thought it didn't look unattractive, so I left it on there anyway. I put it back on, but yours should be green, but if you want to change it, that's up to you. And I've added a couple of little pearls in with the red berries as well. And when I find some, I might put some glossy accents on the berries, but I couldn't find it when I was looking earlier. So those are going to go on the sides. I could put them on now, but I'm waiting for those wheel arches, fenders to stick properly. So meanwhile I want to show you the tree. Now I've put all my 7 pieces together and I've just left the 8th one to show you how I do it, or how you need to do it. And basically you need to fold them first. As I say, I've got alternating colours, but they're really pretty similar colours. They're not, that's the 2 different shades. It was just to make, I don't know if you can even see that, it was just to make it look a little bit more realistic. I thought that you could use 1 colour if you wanted to, or even 2 more sort of varying colours. So I will stick half of it on first. I just put dots on all of these pieces and also down here in the groove, as it were, to put that one into place, the last one, just to show you how I did it. I think that's fairly reasonably covered. And making sure it lines up at the top and at the bottom. And then put all the branches together, as it were. Push it down, that's it, into the groove. And put those in place. Make sure that's all lined up and stuck everywhere. Push them all together, because you'll only have to go and stick any together that didn't stick together afterwards if you find some still unattached. And again, push it right down. And there's one that doesn't have enough glue on. This is the sort of thing you'll have to do if it's not completely stuck. If you're using the art glitter glue, don't worry too much about any oozes because it does dry clear, but I try not to get in too much of a mess. And then there just remains to do the very last piece. And I'll put some more glue down in the groove and put some more spots of glue on. And it's getting to the right. I think I've more or less got all those covered. I as I say, if you miss any, you need to go back afterwards and glue them together afterwards. Right, now push that back down in there. Make sure the top and the bottom are still lined up okay. Push those together and gradually line up the branches as well. Mine needs a little bit of adjustment here. It's not quite meeting those ones. And you have to move it around quickly while it's still wet, otherwise you'll have your pieces stuck in the wrong places and they won't meet properly. So wiggle it around until they all match up. And push them together. And like that. And you have to do this for all 8 pieces. So it's something fun to do while you're sitting watching TV or something. As you don't get glue everywhere, which probably I would. But there's some last pieces that aren't quite matching up here. That one seems a little longer, so I'm going to just trim it off. Like that. And it's just about this one I don't like. Didn't stick together how I wanted it to. I'm going to peel it apart and move it slightly. And the last piece in particular is a little fiddly to do, and if you do have any that aren't quite where you want them to be, you can do a little trim here and there to make them match up better. That one here that needs a bit of trim. But basically, there is your fir tree, and I think that that looks quite realistic, in my opinion. And then the little trunk, or the little trunk isn't stuck down properly here and it needs a trim off here. There we are. I'm going to probably use my brown distress ink. Oh, there it is. That's not the. And I'm having to go now while you're watching to make sure it's a feasible activity. But I'm going to colour the trunk a bit with the brown distress ink in all the grooves, just at the very bottom, the bottom inch. That's actually distress oxide, but either of them would work. I think the distress inks are a little darker colour, so this one is Vintage Photo I'm using here at the moment. I might look through them all later and see if there's something else I want to put on there, but just to give you an idea. I'm not going to go into great detail with that at the moment, that was just to show you how I did it, but you get the idea. And that's going to go in the back of our truck when we're ready for it. And you can make sure it all matches up at the top in the pointy bit. And again, do any little trim that you think enhances the general shape. And I made one, first of all, that was smaller than this, and I didn't think it was going to be big enough to go in the back of that truck. But I wanted to experiment with it. I'm going to put a sort of some frosty and snowy and sparkly bits on it. And I'll do the same with the other one. And I used 3 different Martha Stewart glitters, and I also used my distress ink. I think if I had a white distress oxide it might even work better, to put on the ends of the branches to make those look a little bit frosty. And that's what I'm going to do to the other one before I show you it at the end. And I basically used this art glitter glue and put it on in various places, and then I said probably best to do it outside if you possibly can, but anyway on a big surface where you can pick up all the glitter afterwards, and shook it over a plastic box and so on, and tip the glitter back in the glitter bottles afterwards. But that's what I want to do with it, and that's what I'll do with that one. But I'm not going to do that here on the screen because that's far too messy. But, and I did say I'm not going to use lights, and I may not still, but I did get these ones yesterday in Dollar Tree, and I liked the fact that they were only a thin wire and only 10 lights. I haven't got the top on it at the moment, but that doesn't matter, it will still work to show you, because I thought those were rather nice. So I don't know, I may put them on after all at the end. Because I think you could wind that wire amongst the tree without it messing up. Because the one I did last time, let me just fetch my other one over for a moment, had a thick green wire that showed quite a lot. Here it is. If you remember this one. And I just thought it detracted from it. So I don't know yet whether I'm actually going to put those stars on. I'll decide at the very end, but they are pretty. I do think they look nice, and I like the white rather than the multicoloured as well. So I'll let you know. And if I do, I'm going to cover the battery, instead of the hamper and the shelf, I'm going to cover the battery box afterwards with some of this red plaid, and leave the switch out at the end like that, something like that. And look like a little parcel or something in the back of the truck, and you won't notice it that much because it matches the plaid inside the truck. So anyway, I haven't decided on that. I may or may not put them on. I'll decide later, but for $1 they were quite interesting, so that's what I might use if I do. So let's have a look at this and see whether we're ready now to put the wheels on. And the way we're going to put the wheels on, and it's hard to show you, but I'm just going to push the wheels up into the wheel arches and stick them to the vehicle like that. And I'm going to use the messy, or it's me probably that's messy, E6000 to do it. And then I'm going to leave them to, I don't want to put it down on its wheels while they're setting because they'll wiggle around a bit. So I'm going to put them into place and then leave it on its side to dry for a while. And when they're all dry, I will come back to you to do the final things with putting the tree in the back and the swags on the side, and we'll be all finished. So I just wanted to show you. Push them up into the wheel arches till they hit the edge of the wheel arch, and let them rest on the side, with the truck rest on its side while they're coming into place. And that's what we'll do. So I'll probably just put one on to show you, and I'll try and put some paper towel down on my mat in case I drip this stuff, because I'm good at that. And I'm going to put the glue actually here rather than on the wheel, so that I don't put it too far down the wheel. And I'm going to put a nice amount of glue so that it's going to stick firmly, and I'm going to push that in here and push it firmly into place and leave that to stick. And I'm going to do the same with the other three, so you don't need to watch me do that. I'll come back to you at the end with more, with the whole thing done, I hope. So the wheels are now firmly adhered, and the tree has been glittered and adorned with a little bit of paint. There it is. I have decided not to put the lights on this one. They are quite cute, those Dollar Tree lights. I'll just show you here on this little tree. Let's move it so you can actually see it. That would be a good idea. That's my original practice tree, if you remember. It's in a little pot and it's quite cute, but I think I still prefer it without the lights, but you could do either really. It would be quite cute either way. Anyway, so let's take that out a second. And there's one more thing to do, and that's the vinyl on the back window here. And I've got the vinyl cut out here and the transfer paper here. You have to remove the backing, and then it's always fiddly to get off, at least I find it is. So let's see. Perhaps I should have done this before I switched you on, but got it. So I'll peel this off its backing, move this out of the way a little bit, and place it over the vinyl, which is the right way round, not back to front, because this is stick on vinyl. And then you have to make sure, I should have the, I'll use this actually, and I should have the scraper thing, and that would be easy. Make sure it's stuck firmly to the transfer paper, and then see if it will come off in one go. Sometimes you have to tease the beginning. Let's do it from this side, see if that helps. And once you've got it started, which I haven't yet, right, once you've got it started, it's easier to pull your paper off flat like this. I don't know if you can see, yes, there, flat like this. And make sure you don't lose any as it comes up. And then you put it where you want it, and I'm going to look at it face on first, and I'll turn it around and show you afterwards. Right in the middle of your window. Try not to touch the window until you've got it in the right place, so it'll probably stick where you don't want it to. Mine looks about right there. Look at the Mary at the top and line that up and make sure the C and the S are both on the window. And you're not too far near the bottom. Now I'm about right, I think. And then you can stick that on. And I'm going to to rub. It looks like it's in the right place. I'll show you what I'm doing. There. And then I'm going to peel this off. Again, it's easier to pull it flat against the vinyl rather than to pull it outwards. And my R came off with my paper, so I'm going to push that back up. Not the R, the centre of the R. And it's still doing it. So I'm going to come back round and try and persuade that to stick on. Still wants to rise off. You can hold it down with your fingernail while you pull the paper off. Oh, it's come off again. Don't do that. I think I've got it there now. Is the other one going to stay? Yes, the other one wants to stay, that's alright. And I'm putting it sideways so you can see. There we are. And that's a little bit of the R that wanted to move. But it's just about, it's still moving. I'm going to move it into place with something pointed. Oh, this pin will do. And then push it flat. There. There we are. And there's my Merry Christmas on the back. And there's the whole truck. I'll show you the front. And I'll show you the back. And here's the tree. Go inside. Straighten that out a bit. And there's that. Now, I told you that this was smaller than my original truck, but guess what? It isn't. And it's kind of more refined in places, and perhaps a little bit more like the real truck. And my original one was. I think I'm going to take the camera and you over, because you can't see them very well together here. I just can't get them all onto the screen, and I need to be far away. So I'm going to put them over there on top of my chest of drawers, and I will walk over with the camera and show you them both. Either of them are fun to make, but you can see, for example, my headlights on my original one are stuck on top of my radiator. And it has 3 sets of wheels instead of 2. And it's lower, it's more like a cab with a trailer, as I said, although it does have that nice little basket in it, and it's got little wrapped Christmas presents. There's the basket, in case I didn't show you that. I think you've seen it before. You could make either of them. They're both quite cute, really. And as I say, I'll take you over to see them in a moment. Over there, and I'll walk around them and show you them in comparison. But they're really just about the same size, except this one actually is taller. And the bed at the back is shorter, but the cab at the front is longer. Anyway, I'll show you. So here we are. Here's the new truck, and here's the old truck. And there they are both together, again at the front. And you can see that this one is taller at the back. This is the one with the basket shelf for the battery, the tree and the presents in it. This is my new one with just the tree in the back and the tartan lining, and the swag's on the side with the notice on the back. But as you can see, they are actually, hold them up, they are actually, it's hard to put them in the shot, but they are both basically the same length. But I didn't give you step-by-step instructions last time, and I wanted to this time, so there you are, there's a variation in them, and you can do either of them or both of them, or adapt one of them to be. This is definitely got an older more distressed look, which I quite like. I think I like them both really. Quite fond of both of them. But there's the new one for your. And there we are. So I will say goodbye to you, and I'm off to work out on another project, and I'll be speaking to you again. So goodbye from Cherry in Florida.